All right, UFC 328, Chimaev versus Strickland. Full card predictions, starting from the early prelim opener to the main card, the main event on the main card. Yeah, pretty good card, so let's get right into it. First fight of the night, we've got Clayton Carpenter versus Jose Ochoa. I'm going to go Jose Ochoa. I think he's pretty good. He's one of my favorite flyweights, especially that are on the come up right now. Yeah, Ochoa's got pretty good power. He's got pretty good speed. I liked his fight against Djorden. It was a very scrappy, scrambly fight where there's a lot of moments in the grappling, a lot of moments in the clinch, a lot of moments in the striking. And early on, he was pretty even. I liked how Ochoa looked in the grappling. I think Djorden is a very, not dangerous grappler, but definitely a little bit tricky. He does beat decent fighters. You know, he beat Jafel Filio in a fight that was mostly in the grappling. And Jafel Filio is a very good grappler, and he's a solid striker too. He trains with Andre Pederneiras, who is Jose Aldo's coach. Djorden looked pretty solid against him, and Jose Ochoa made pretty easy work of Djorden. As soon as the second round started, he came out through a combination, landed with like a very long two, and dropped Djorden against the fence and finished him. And yeah, just Clayton Carpenter just hasn't had a ton of success in the UFC. He did beat Lucas Rocha. He also beat Juan Camilo Honderos, who I forgot was in the UFC. But yeah, Clayton Carpenter not a ton of success recently, losing to Tagir Ulanbekov and Jafel Filio, who I previously mentioned Djorden beat. Just on MMA math, I guess Jose Ochoa is better than Clayton Carpenter in that way, I guess. But yeah, he started off in the UFC fighting Loner Kavanaugh, who we've seen beat Brandon Moreno. I think he's probably at least top 6 now, right? Because I think Moreno was top 5 when he beat him. And he also lost to Asu Almabayev. But I don't think Almabayev's that bad. I think he's actually pretty solid. The only person who's beaten him in the UFC is Manel Cap. And Manel Cap did kind of dog walk him, other than the cheating moments. But Almabayev's pretty good. And I thought Ochoa scrambled pretty well in that fight. He did lose in the grappling, and Clayton Carpenter is a grappler. So there is a concern there. But I thought he looked good enough against Djorden and good enough against Almabayev. And I think he'll have a pretty big advantage in the feet. Against Djorden, Djorden's pretty solid in the feet. He doesn't make any huge mistakes. He's a solid flyweight there. Almabayev, kind of the same thing. He's pretty quick. He's pretty in and out. He's got a couple things that he does well. But Clayton Carpenter, can't really say the same for him. So I'm going to pick Jose Ochoa just with the advantage on the feet and being good enough in the scrambles that he's not going to end up on bottom for a long amount of time. And I can even see him getting like a front choke or something because he does have pretty good submissions off his back. He trains at Chute Box, Diego Lima with Charles Oliveira, Ian Gary, that whole crowd. So I think Ochoa should win this one. Next fight of the card, Baisangur Susurkaev versus Djorden Santos. I'm going to go Susurkaev. Susurkaev isn't exceptional, I don't think. I think he's a little bit overrated. I don't know if he should be such a big favorite in this fight, but his wins over McConaughey and Tom Nolan are fine. He was down 2-0 to McConaughey and got to finish in the third. He was down the first round and got to finish the second against Tom Nolan. But he did look good in the Contender Series against actually a pretty shitty opponent. Yeah, Susurkaev is really dangerous. He's obviously got good grappling. His striking, he hits hard. He's got good kicks. His head movement is not great. His defense isn't exceptional. But it's good enough that I don't think Djorden Santos is going to finish him. Djorden Santos is not the best fighter in the world. He beat Will Curry on the Contender Series, which is a good win. Will Curry, I'm pretty sure he was either on last season in the Contender Series or he's going to be back for this season. But he's a pretty solid fighter of the Cage Warriors, yeah. But I don't love that Djorden Santos lost to Ozzy Diaz, who we'll talk about in a minute. Ozzy Diaz is not the best fighter in the UFC. I did predict Ozzy Diaz beating Djorden Santos because Santos doesn't really pass the eye test. He didn't have like the best regional career, a lot of like losing records or like ugly records that he fought. The guy beat in the Contender Series, Will Curry, is pretty solid, but losing to Ozzy Diaz, I think it says more about you than beating Will Curry. And Danny Barlow, I don't think is very good. It's weird. For some reason, when Danny Barlow was in the first in the UFC, I thought he was going to be a good prospect, even though he was like very clearly one-dimensional. He had like a good straight left, and that's it. But he figured out Danny Barlow. He will beat him by decision. I just think Susurkaev is going to be too dangerous. Danny Barlow might have a straight left hand, but Susurkaev has like a straight left hand and then a right hook follow. Except he's orthodox, so it'd be a straight right hand. You know what I mean? So I'll pick Susurkaev. I think he's the more dangerous guy. He might be behind in the scorecards, but I think he'll get a finish, and maybe even early. I just don't think Djorden Santos is all that good. Next fight of the card, Pat Sabatini versus William Gomis. I'm going to pick Sabatini. I think Sabatini's really good. His only loss recently was to Diego Lopez. By the way, Pat Sabatini, Grant Dawson, Sean Brady, all three of those guys, they're all the same fighter. They're all basically a different version of Grant Dawson. They're kind of chinny, kind of breakable grapplers who are very good at grappling, but don't have the best takedown entries. So if they don't get takedowns, they do get their asses kicked. I think Pat Sabatini is the most skilled of the three that I mentioned, just because he is a featherweight. He actually does have pretty solid takedown entries. He does good work out of the clinch. We saw that against Chimaev and Joannis and Brito. A lot of the takedowns he got in those fights were just from shooting into the clinch and then working his way to a trip or working his way to the back. He didn't like super rely on getting single legs and double legs, which I think is going to be important because William Gomis is like a very technical fighter. He's out of MMA Factory. A lot of the guys that come out of there, they are kind of boring, but they do have like the techniques and the fundamentals down pat. So I think Gomis, if Sabatini only had double legs and single legs, would have a pretty good chance in this fight, especially because he's good at punishing with like body kicks, and just based on the fact that Sabatini is very similar to other breakable grapplers, I imagine the body kicks probably would be very significant, or maybe even will be very significant. I just think that Sabatini is not going to struggle as much as he has previously with the grappling. And even then, like against Diego Lopez, he got a takedown, I'm pretty sure. He got finished from a scramble off of a takedown he got. So his grappling is very good, and when he gets people down, he holds them down. Chepe Mariscal is a very good fighter. He was on a pretty good run there for a minute. I think he fucking 30-25 Damon Jackson. He beat Trevor Peake. He beat Jack Jenkins. He was on a good run, and Pat Sabatini shut it down. And he's looked pretty good recently, so I'm going to pick Sabatini, even though I think Gomis is good. I had a kind of come to Jesus enlightenment moment where I realized like William Gomis might not be that good. Like if you look at all of the fighters, if you do the MMA math of like everyone he's fought, it's like it kind of comes down to like he's not the best fighter in the world. And using that logic has helped me a lot picking opponents, or picking against his past opponents. So if I keep it on that trend, I think I'll keep it being right. So I'm going to pick against William Gomis. I'm going to pick Pat Sabatini. Next fight of the card, Roman Kopylov versus Marco Tulio. I'm going to pick Marco Tulio. It's definitely a competitive fight. It's pretty close. I'm going to pick Tulio just because I feel like Kopylov has the ability to get kind of bitched around by bigger fighters. Specifically Paulo Acosta and Gregor Rodriguez. Paulo Acosta is now a 205er. He's going to be at the top 10 in that weight class, maybe even top 5. I haven't checked the rankings recently. But Paulo Acosta is very good, and Paulo Acosta is a thing where when he fights southpaws, he has that open side body kick, and he does much better. So I think if that was an orthodox versus orthodox matchup, Roman Kopylov would have done better. However, despite the fact that he was like kind of at a disadvantage with the stance matchup, he did nothing in that fight. Like he kind of just was scared of getting hit the whole time, especially afraid of those body kicks. And we've seen Paulo Acosta use his body kicks against other fighters, and other fighters not completely back down to it. What's his name? Azamat Murzakanov was fighting until the third round. He was like pushing Paulo Acosta against the fence, throwing combinations when he backed him up. The body kicks definitely slowed him down. I just don't think they shut him down completely like they did to Kopylov. Johnny Hendricks also got completely shut down by the body kicks, but that was a blown up, old, washed Johnny Hendricks. So I don't rate that super highly. And then against Gregor Rodriguez, Roman Kopylov, again, kind of just was scared of the power, lowered his volume a ton, and he doesn't have enough power and enough fight-changing ability. Like he's not going to drop a guy very easily. He's not going to take a guy down and beat him up and kind of like swing around into his favor. So if he gets behind, I think Tulio is going to be a lot better at keeping that lead than Kopylov will be. And then if Kopylov starts off ahead, I think that he has a better chance of getting hurt or getting finished down the stretch. So I think they're both matched pretty evenly. Also, when you look at Marco Tulio, his last fight against Christian Leroy Duncan, he didn't do great. I think he was winning the fight until he got caught, but he wasn't doing nearly as good as he was against Tresean Gore, and that's because Tresean Gore was giving him a lot of volume, and Marco Tulio was very good at trading exchanges back and forth. And by the way, that win has aged pretty well. Tresean Gore fought a very similar fight to Azamat Murzakanov and finished Murzakanov. So Tulio, getting the finish there is pretty impressive. And like I said, like that fight happened like that because Tresean Gore was returning so much in every exchange that Marco Tulio was able to build up the volume, and he landed like 100 significant strikes by the time he got to finish, and it was early in the second round. So yeah, if Roman Kopylov wants to win this fight, I think he has to use a lot of volume or find a big punch. And I think Tulio is more likely to find a big punch. And if Kopylov increases the volume and they get in a war, I think Tulio also has the advantage there. So I'm going to pick Marco Tulio. He might also have a grappling advantage. I know he has a jiu-jitsu black belt. I just don't really think I've seen much of his grappling in the UFC. But he beat Yusri Belgaroui on the Contender Series. which is a pretty good win. So I think Tulio is actually a pretty legit fighter, despite not looking very good in his last loss. But I'm going to pick Tulio. Next fight of the card, Jim Miller versus Djorden. I'm pretty torn on this one. I think this should be an even odds fight, despite the fact that Djorden is a minus 300 favorite. I think I'm going to go with Gordon. I'm going to go with Djorden. The reason why is because I talked about this a couple weeks ago. I can't remember what fight. Maybe it was the, I think it was Rafa Garcia versus Alexander Hernandez. A lot of times when a fighter's older, they have the first fight where they're like, oh, fuck, he's old. Djorden had that against, what's his name? Rafa Garcia, and Carlos de Ofea had it against Alexander Hernandez, and Glover Teixeira had it against Jamal Hill. Like, there's a fight where someone's the old crafty vet who's winning fights, and then they have their fight where it's like, oh fuck, they're washed now. And that happened with Djorden's last fight, which makes you worried. Usually fighters don't improve after fights like that, so I'm not super optimistic about like the future of his career. The reason why I bring that up is because Jim Miller is older than Djorden. He's 5 years older, but he hasn't really had that performance yet. I mean, you could say the Chase Hooper fight, he didn't have a ton of success. You can say the Bobby Green fight, he was getting kind of outboxed. And that definitely is true, but it didn't seem like a new Jim Miller had showed up. It seemed like it had been the same Jim Miller we've seen since like 2020, where he's not beating the ranked guys, he's not beating the guys just outside the rankings, but he's having good fights with some decent fighters, and he's knocking out fighters who are not very good. So, I don't know. Jim Miller has yet to have that performance. This could be his performance, which is why I'm going to pick Djorden. I just feel like it's a 50-50 fight based on their most recent performances. And if Jim Miller significantly regresses because he's the older fighter, that'll be that. However, if Jim Miller shows up, the same Jim Miller that showed up against, who did he beat recently? Like, I don't know. Like the Bobby Green fight, the Damon Jackson fight, the Gabriel Benitez fight. If that Jim Miller shows up and the Djorden that showed up against Rafa Garcia shows up, I think Jim Miller might catch him and finish him. So I think there is a good chance that Jim Miller wins this. Like I said, it just comes down to, is he going to show up super washed or not? The reason why I think it's a decent chance is because he hasn't fought in like a year. And when he fought a year ago, we didn't really see any of him. So that, like a year ago, Chase Hooper performance could have been a very washed Jim Miller, and we just didn't really know. So because of that, I'm going to pick Djorden on the fact that Jim Miller might just be very washed. I know Djorden is washed, and that makes me worried about him getting caught, especially because he got knocked out in his last fight. I don't know. I'll go Djorden. I think Jim Miller could be washed, and even if they weren't, I feel like it is pretty even. So I'll go with Djorden. Next fight of the card, Grant Dawson versus Mateusz Rebecki. Rebecki, however you say his name, Rebecki. I'm going to go with Rebecki, which is what I'm going to call him going forward. And that's just because, like I said, Grant Dawson does have that thing, like Pat Sabatini, where if he can't get his takedowns, he's not going to do very well. And the reason why I don't think he's going to get his takedowns, or at least super easily, is because Rebecki is a very good grappler. I think his, maybe not star-making performance, but, what really put him on the map for me was that Roosevelt-Roberts fight where he took his back and he got an armbar off his back. He looked very good there. He was a big favorite in that fight, and he showed it. I think his grappling is pretty solid. We saw him fight against Mukhtabek Oralbai. Mukhtabek Oralbai is a very good grappler. He submitted Tafik Masaev in the first round. He submitted Uros Medic in round 2 after dominating him the whole fight. I don't know. He's a very good grappler. He's a very good striker. And Rebecki went to a war with him, and he landed a ton of strikes in that fight. And Oralbai could not just easily take him down and hold him down, which I think he would have if he wanted to, because that's what he ended up doing after he got hurt in the third round. But if you look at all the damage that Oralbai took in that fight, Grant Dawson can't take that much damage. He is very chin. He got finished by Bobby Green off a jab. It was kind of like a step-in jab, so it wasn't like a flicky jab from Bobby Green like he likes to throw. So it wasn't the craziest knockout ever, but it was a little ridiculous that in 50 seconds into his fight, where he's a huge favorite in the main event against Bobby Green, he gets knocked out by a jab. And Rebecki's got way more power than Bobby Green. He lands a lot harder than Bobby Green does, and I think he's probably going to be better at stuffing those takedowns than Bobby Green would have been if that fight had gone a little longer. And Grant Dawson just breaks very easily. In the fight against Manuel Torres, you could see as soon as the fight started, oh fuck, he's going to lose. He all out needed that takedown in the first round against Manuel Torres, just because he was so much less, I don't know how to put it. He's just so much less of a threat basically in the octagon in that fight if he can't get the takedown. And I think Rebecki's he's short, he's got a strong base, he's got good grappling. He fought a very good fight against Orlai, who's a very good grappler. I think that Rebecki will stuff the takedowns, and then he's just going to finish Grand Dawson. Maybe Dawson takes him down early in the first, and Rebecki beats him in the second. Rebecki did get out-grappled by Ludovic Klein, even though Ludovic Klein had broken his ankle in that fight. So it is possible that Dawson just out-grapples him, but Ludovic Klein had to land some stuff on the feet first before we got the respect to get the takedowns. And I just don't think that Grand Dawson's going to have any respect in the feet, maybe from anyone going forward, because people know, like Manuel Torres, it's kind of like the Michael Morales fight against Sean Brady. Like Michael Morales went out there, he's like, all right, I'll just keep my hands low. You can try to take me down. I'm going to be fully guarding the grappling. Because I know that if you try to strike, my guard's not going to be in the right place, but I'm going to hit way harder than you, and I have no respect for your striking. And I think that Rebecki might come out with a similar game plan, like fully anti-wrestling and then just landing big punches. And I think that'll be enough for him to get a finish early on. Next fight of the card, Yoel Alvarez versus Yaroslav Amasov. I was pretty torn on this fight, and then I rewatched Yaroslav Amasov's fight with Jason Jackson, which is his only loss. I think it was at Bellator 300 or 301 or something like that. It was the last Bellator pay-per-view, I'm pretty sure. I remember it specifically being the last MMA fight on Showtime. They might have had fights since then, but at the time it was like marketed as that. But Jason Jackson's pretty solid. He's definitely a welterweight, which is like the big difference I see between him and Yoel Alvarez. Alvarez was a fucking giant lightweight, but he came up to welterweight and he fought Luque, and he just looked like a normal, kind of lanky welterweight, maybe a little bit longer than some welterweights, but not like super tall and not like super big either. Amasov is shorter than him. He's going to be at 4 inches shorter at 5'11" versus 6'3". But yeah, basically the main reason I want to pick pick against Amasov, I'll pick Alvarez, is because Amasov against Jason Jackson, any moment in that fight where he wasn't getting takedowns, he was just losing every exchange. He was landing fine. He was landing kicks. He was landing punches. But anytime there was an exchange where both fighters went for strikes, he would land some, but he would just get more landed on him as the fight went on. And one of the big things that Jason Jackson did was after Amasov couldn't get takedowns, because kind of a similar problem with Sabatini, his takedown entries just aren't very good. His single legs and his double legs aren't. After he started failing single legs and double legs, he started shooting into the clinch, and once he would get in the clinch, Jason Jackson would go for the double collar tie and start throwing knees up the middle, and he landed probably like 30 knees right on the forehead of Amasov, and eventually it just broke him. He got a couple knees landed on him. He got a big combination landed on by Jason Jackson, and then he shot for a takedown, and Jason Jackson sprawled it, and the sprawl, like basically the pelvis driving Amasov's like nose into the canvas, knocked him out basically at the end of the fight. And I just think that Yoel Alvarez has all the tools that Jason Jackson did to beat him. He has the good takedown defense, I think. His grappling does look pretty good. It didn't look good against Susurkaev, but Susurkaev is a different animal, and Alvarez did get cut pretty bad in that fight. I just think that was like a nightmare matchup for him. Amasov, I don't think is nearly as good with the single legs and double legs. He's more of like the grappling out the clinch. And even then, I don't think he's nearly as good as a guy like Arman Tsarukyan. And also, Alvarez has those knees up the middle. I mean, you watch his fight with Elvis Brenner, that's how he got the finish, is he just threw like 10 knees in a row right to the forehead of Elvis Brenner, exactly the same way Jason Jackson was doing it to Amasov. And yeah, I just think that Alvarez is going to have a better advantage on the feet. He's going to be a longer kicker. He's going to be a longer striker. His takedown defense, I think, is going to be good enough. His grappling is pretty solid. And then he's got that perfect counter with the stuff in the clinch to hurt him. I'm sure Amasov is going to be, working on that. I just think that if he's not fully focused on getting the grappling going and getting the takedowns in the clinch, he's going to get his ass kicked. And he's not going to get his takedowns. And he has a pretty big disadvantage on the feet, I believe. So I'm going to pick Alvarez, even though he's an underdog. He opened as a minus 400 favorite, I'm pretty sure, which is kind of psychotic because Amasov is really good. But I don't know. I feel like I just haven't seen enough Amasov. Like, he fought Jason Jackson as one of like his only tough opponents in Bellator. Like, obviously he fought Logan Storley. We know Logan Storley now is shit. But Jason Jackson, like, the only good fighter he fought in Bellator. He went to CFFC and fought Curtis Millender, who shockingly is still doing the damn thing. Didn't Curtis Millender like almost get in a fight with Wing C like a week ago, like 2 weeks ago? But yeah, he beat Curtis Millender, which not a ton of takeaway from that fight. Kind of the same thing with Neil Magny. It's like, we knew that Amasov was better than Neil Magny and Curtis Millender fucking 3 years ago. Didn't really need to be proven to us. Yeah, I just think that Alvarez is better than those guys, and he has the perfect counters to Amasov. So I'm going to pick him. Maybe by finish. I mean, Jason Jackson got a round 3 finish. I think that Alvarez will fight a similar fight and maybe also get a round 3 finish. Just kind of attritive work, even to the head, just like hard concussive stuff over and over again. I don't think Amasov is built for it, so I think Alvarez probably gets a finish. Next fight of the card, Ateba Gautier versus Ozzy Diaz. I'm going to Ateba Gautier. Next fight on the card, King Green versus Jeremy Stephens. I'm going to go with King Green. I'm not calling him King Green. Bobby Green. Yeah, I think Bobby Green's, he's got good boxing. He's looked pretty good recently. He beat Lance Gibson Jr., which we thought was a shitty win, but then Lance Gibson Jr., flatline knocked out. Not really, actually, it was kind of an early stoppage, but he finished Chase Hooper. And looked pretty good in that fight. Looked pretty technical, so I liked how Bobby Green looked against him. Despite the fact that it was a split decision, I thought he was clearly had the advantage of that fight the whole time, so I thought that was an appropriate decision. And then Daniel Zellhuber, he looked good against Zellhuber, but that fight kind of made all of us think like maybe Zellhuber's not that good. Which that might be who did Zellhuber lose to last? Michael Johnson? Yeah. Zellhuber might just be shit. But Bobby Green fought a good fight in that fight, and he got it finished. So yeah, I'm going to pick him just because I don't think Jeremy Stephens is fully in it. He's been doing BKFC. He's been doing other things outside of MMA for a while. He came back and fought Mason Jones in it. He looked fine in that fight. He kind of made it a scrap. Mason Jones is a scrappy fighter who's there to be hit. And honestly, in hindsight, I think that I'm a little surprised Stephens didn't have maybe more success, especially in the first and second round, where Mason Jones did not grapple at all. He was all, scrapping on the feet. The fact that Stephens didn't really drop him or anything, maybe not the best look. I think that if you're not going to land hard on Mason Jones, you're probably not going to land hard on Bobby Green. Given you don't really need to land as hard on Bobby Green, he's very chinny. But I just don't think Stephens is going to land on him. He definitely could. I think that's why the odds are so close. I think most people that watch the sport know that Bobby Green is at a much better spot in his career than Jeremy Stephens, despite the fact that they're basically the same age. But Bobby Green definitely could just get chinned. He's been knocked out a lot. He does get chinned pretty easily. And I don't think that him getting wheel kicked probably helped his chin very much, despite the fact that he hasn't been knocked down since then. So, I'm going to go with Bobby Green, but Stephens could get it in. I just don't think he will. Next fight of the card, Sean Brady versus Joaquin Buckley. Another one of those fights where it's like the grappler, who is very breakable and very kind of chinny, against the striker who's got a lot of power, but he probably is going to get taken down. And for that reason, I'm picking Brady. I think a lot of people have overlooked, the fact that the odds are as close as they are in this fight. I think a lot of people overlooked Brady's fight against Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards, a very good grappler. He counter wrestled and worked very well against Kamaru Usman in their three fights, I guess, but particularly in the last two fights. He had good grappling against Carlos Prates. He had more success in the grappling against Prates than anyone has in the UFC, including Ian Gary. He's a very good grappler. I don't know what else there is to say. And Sean Brady took him down every round, especially the first round. Edwards kind of gave him the takedown, but rounds 2, 3, and 4, whenever he got the finish, he was getting takedowns pretty easily. He was taking down Edwards. He was controlling him very easily. He ended up getting a guillotine from top half guard. His grappling looked very good in that fight. I think if he gets a takedown in this fight, he's going to at least win the round. I think Buckley's going to struggle to get up. Buckley struggled to get up against Usman, and Usman is a very good wrestler, but wrestling is not as good, I think, at holding. Maybe, but I think a lot of what Brady does is uses good jiu-jitsu to hold people down. He uses more jiu-jitsu-based positions and holds in the grappling. And I think that's better because Buckley, I think, has worse jiu-jitsu than he has wrestling. So I think his ability to get up is going to be worse than it was against Usman. And anytime Usman took Buckley down, it was basically at the end of the round. Usman didn't do a ton of damage. Buckley could never get up. And I think it's going to be a similar case. This is also only a 3-round fight, so Brady technically really only needs to take him down 2 times. He just needs to take him down the first round, the second round, or the third round, just 2 of those 3 to win the fight by decision, especially if Buckley's not going to finish him. I think if Buckley has the fight on the feet for long enough, he will finish him. The only problem is Buckley, I don't know if it's still true, but when he fought Usman, he was the least accurate fighter in a welterweight by 10%. I think the second least accurate was landing at 39%, and Buckley was landing at 31%. So Buckley's just not a very accurate fighter. He does kind of, and I don't think it's because he misses a lot. He does throw very wide punches, which are going to be harder to land on someone's chin. But I think that the main thing is everything he does is a very big movement, and a lot of that's telegraphed. I think that's why Usman was able to duck under his takedowns, or duck under his punches to land a takedown 5 times in that fight, which is kind of shocking that Colby Covington hasn't. Maybe that just proves how strong Buckley is and how kind of washed Colby Covington is. The fact that Covington didn't really take him down successfully a single time. But nothing in the Usman fight showed me that Buckley's prepared to stop a takedown from a guy like Brady. And I think if Brady gets on top, it's going to be the end of the round. So, good chance Brady gets a submission, I think, but I think a better chance that he just gets a takedown in 1, 2, and 3, rides out a boring decision. He's not afraid to do that. We saw him hold down Edwards for a very long span of their fight. He held down Gaslam for 10 minutes of their fight. So I think that's what he will do. Get a takedown and hold him down. But if he can't get a takedown, Buckley, I think, pretty easily finishes him. So I'll pick Brady, but like I said, it's very similar to Grant Dawson and Pat Sabatini. You could be the better fighter. It's just if you're kind of bitch-made and you can't get the fight to go where you want it, you're probably going to get finished. So yeah, I'll pick Brady. Next fight of the card, we got the featured fight in Alexander Volkov versus Waldo Cortes Acosta. I'm going to pick Volkov. I think that Waldo Cortes Acosta's shortcomings will finally catch up with him. They kind of did against Pavlovich. It's just that he doesn't really set anything up. A lot of when he throws is naked. He has a decent jab. He's got decent, simple boxing weapons. But he doesn't move his head a ton, and he doesn't check low kicks ever. And for some reason, no one's ever punished him for that. Like Ryan Spann should have just fought the fight in a closed stance and thrown outside leg kicks for the entire fight while backing up and circling away from the power hand. He probably would have won the fight if he did that. And I know that because I watched, what the hell is his name? Not Chase Sherman. Well, Chase Sherman, I think, kind of did the same thing. What the hell is the guy's name? The ogre-looking dude that fought Chase Sherman and got finished by him. Whatever. But basically, Waldo Cortes Acosta fought that entire fight without checking a single low kick and won like a really bad robbery. And then kind of did the same thing to Arlovsky, I think a year later. So yeah, Waldo Cortes Acosta doesn't check low kicks. His boxing is decent, but it's not great. And I think he's really going to struggle to get on the inside against a guy like Volkov, who's got good kicks. He's going to be longer. So if Volkov just throws hard outside low kicks, uses teeps, uses just shit out the middle to keep Cortes Acosta away, I think he's going to have good success. He doesn't have a huge reach advantage, despite the fact that he's got a pretty big height advantage. But I think he should be good at keeping Waldo Cortes Acosta at bay. And if he can keep him at bay, I don't really know what else Cortes Acosta could do. He's probably not going to take down Volkov. He's probably not going to hold Volkov down if you take him down. So yeah, I think Volkov's probably just a better fighter, and he's bigger. He's probably got less power, but it is heavyweight, so if he lands good, he might get a finish too. But Waldo Cortes Acosta does have a good chin. He took some good punches off Antivalia. He took a couple big punches off of Pavlovich. I just don't think he's going to be able to get on the inside. And it seemed like he was pretty intimidated by Pavlovich, and Volkov is bigger than Pavlovich. So, we've seen Volkov fight this game before. For 14 and a half minutes, he fought this game planning against Derek Lewis with pretty good success. He did it against Gon. In the first and second fight, he had pretty good success just circling. He did it against fucking Pavlovich. So yeah, I think the Pavlovich fight is a very good comparison because they're very similar fighters. They got like long reach for their height. But Volkov was able to use his long jab. He's able to use his low kicks, his body kicks, whatever, to keep the guy at bay. So yeah, I think Volkov should win this. Probably my decision. Next fight up the card, Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira, the co-main event for the flyweight title. I'm going to go Tatsuro Taira. I'm not super confident because I do know Van does have good counter wrestling, and he's got pretty good striking. The only problem is he doesn't really finish anyone. I think that's kind of what he's going to need to do to beat Taira. At least beat him up pretty bad. The thing about what Royval did in this fight is he used a lot of long straight punches, which kind of helped him accumulate damage because he doesn't have a ton of power. It is flyweight, so if you're going to want to hurt someone, it's going to be hard to just land one big punch. You kind of got to land combinations, and Royval did do that well. He kind of took advantage of Tatsuro Taira having his biggest flaw being that he doesn't move his head at all. It kind of keeps his head on a straight line the entire time, which could be dangerous against Van, but I think it was more particularly dangerous against Royval because Royval had a lot longer reach. He does have a good jab. He does have a good two. And because of that, he was able to get a couple 10-8 rounds, or at least get a couple very clear rounds, because Tatsuro Taira was having very clear rounds for himself. That was one of those fights where it could have been 10-8 Taira, 10-8 Royval, 10-8 Taira, 10-8 Royval, 10-9 Royval. Both of them had very clear, very distinct, dominant rounds. And it was based on whether or not Taira could get the takedowns. But when Taira couldn't get the takedowns, I think Royval had success that Joshua Van is not going to be able to have. Just because he doesn't have the power, and he also doesn't have the reach. I don't think he's gonna be able to land combinations as good. A lot of what Royval landed was straight punches as Taira backed up on a straight line, and didn't move his head at all. And Joshua Van can land, a good jab too on a guy who's not moving his head at all. But if Taira moves back in a straight line, he doesn't have the reach of Royval, and he doesn't really throw with switching stances either. So I think he's going to not land as well and not have very clear dominant rounds when he's able to stuff the takedowns. And then I think it's going to be a very similar story to Royval if he gets taken down, except I think he's going to do worse. And that's just because Tatsuro Taira is a very, very good grappler, and I just haven't seen enough from Van to think that he's going to do better than Royval. Royval, I saw him fight Kai Kara-France and have very good scrambles. I saw him fight Pantoja for 2 fights and have very good scrambles in those fights. Against Taira, he was scrambling well, but he was getting his back taken a lot. He was getting held down. He was getting controlled in dominant positions quite often. And I just don't think Joshua Van's going to do better than that. Van did good against Ray Soroya, but I don't know. We just haven't seen enough of his grappling to know that he's going to do this. I think they made this fight in 2024 in the summer. I think it got booked. I think the fight got completely scrapped, but it was originally supposed to be Taira versus someone. That person dropped out. Maybe it was Taira and Bekov, and then they dropped, or maybe, I don't remember who it was, but Taira was supposed to fight someone. They dropped out. Van stepped in, and then the fight got canceled. Or maybe Van fought someone else. I can't remember. But I don't see Van as someone who is so young and so new to MMA, having all the skills in the scrambles as a guy like Royval, and then also be able to do better than him on the feet. And if he does worse than Royval, I think he's going to lose, because that fight that Taira had with Royval was so close. And both of them came so close to getting a finish at different points in the fight, that if Van is not going to do as good as Royval, he's probably either going to get finished or lose pretty clearly. I'm going to pick Taira. I definitely think Van has a way to win, and that's just stuffing every takedown and taking full advantage of every moment that he has on the feet. But I just think he's too new to the sport to do that, and he's not much of a finisher. He finished Bruno Silva. I guess he technically finished Pantoja, but he's going to have to land pretty good on a guy who's got a good chin like Taira to finish him. I just don't know if he has the style to do that. And even then, I just don't think it's going to be very reliable. I don't think you should reliably pick on a guy to get a finish. I get if you think that he's going to win the same way as Royval and just losing every round where he doesn't grab or doesn't stuff the takedowns, and clearly winning every round where he does. I just don't know if he's that good. I mean, I know he's good. I just don't know if he's that good in this matchup. Royval had a very special set of skills that allowed him to win that fight, and even then, it was a really close fight. Should have been a split decision, but it was a split decision with that close. So I'm going to go Taira, probably by decision, maybe by finish. But I think Van's too far. But I think he's good enough that I could see him being good enough in 2 years to win this fight, So yeah, I'm picking Taira. Next fight of the card, main event, Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland. I'm going Chimaev for very similar reasons that I picked him against Dricus du Plessis, but with even more information now. We hadn't really seen Chimaev in a 5-round fight, especially a 5-round fight that goes the distance. That was his first 5-round fight, so yeah. We've never really seen him go the distance, especially over 25 minutes. We learned a lot about him. And I think what I learned is that Chimaev is very dangerous early on. He's got the good takedowns. He is able to get to dominant positions. But in a 25-minute fight, not 25 rounds, I don't necessarily think that Chimaev is going to go for the finish like he was in 3-round fights, against Burns and against Usman, which is going to prevent him from gassing out. One thing I didn't really consider against du Plessis is that if Chimaev can get the back, if he can get the crucifix, if he can get a mount or side control, he can sit there and he's going to use a lot less energy that he would use trying to keep a guy in guard or trying to keep a guy stable in the bottom half guard. And that is kind of what he did. He just got those dominant positions and just held them because he didn't want to exert himself. And it worked very well. And when I thought about it, I'm like, Chimaev is definitely going to take down Strickland in the first round. Strickland's probably got good takedown defense. We saw it look good against Anthony Hernandez. It just Chimaev's kind of a different beast. He shoots those really low takedowns. You're not going to be able to lift your legs and do, check low kicks and teep like Strickland does when a guy like Chimaev is staying across from you. So if Chimaev takes down Strickland and he gets him in the position that DDP was in, is Strickland really going to get up? Is that what we're thinking? Strickland's going to get up from crucifix with Khamzat Chimaev on top of him in round 1? I just don't really think so. And then all of the other things I said about Chimaev in that Dricus du Plessis fight are still true against Strickland. He's got the upside with the first round finishes. He's got power on the feet early on. He's got dominant positions at any point in the fight against DDP. I think he could definitely get them in the first round against Strickland. So he's got all the upside of the early finish, and then he's also got the upside of hey, if he gets the takedowns and he's in the dominant positions, guys can't get up. At least DDP couldn't. I think DDP probably has better jiu-jitsu and wrestling off of his back than Strickland, at least from what we've seen of him. And then all of the upside that DDP had with being a very good finisher on the feet, with being able to land a big punch early on and a big punch late, having submissions off of his back, having all those options. Strickland has none of that, he definitely could get a finish. He could finish him like he finished Anthony Hernandez and like he finished Abus Magomedov. But if Chimaev's not going to gas, and Strickland does stuff the takedowns, let's say it's round 4, Chimaev is up 3-0, Strickland stuffs 2 takedowns to start off round 4 in the first minute. Chimaev, is huffing and puffing. Are we going to rely on Strickland to land a big punch and drop him and get a clear round or something like that? I just don't think so. So I think Chimaev just has too much upside to pick against him. Strickland definitely could win. He's fought, probably the 2 most similar opponents that he's fought to Chimaev, he's beaten. We've seen both of those fighters lose before. Fluffy Hernandez, I saw him lose to Kevin Holland. I saw Chimaev take down and submit Kevin Holland in a minute. like with no struggle. He did fake a glove touch. What a bitch. Whatever. Or I guess, no, he didn't fake a glove touch in that fight. Whatever. You get my point. I saw Abus Magomedov get submitted by Joe Pyfer after Gascon round 1. I saw Abus Magomedov get finished by Lorenz Larkin, or whoever knocked him on PFL. So Chimaev has all the upside of the guys that Strickland has beat, but he doesn't have it nearly as much of the downside. Like, I haven't seen him get finished. I could definitely like visualize him getting finished. I've seen him gassed out before. I've seen him, tired or hurt against Usman, against Burns, but I haven't seen him get finished. Until I see him get finished, I don't really think Strickland's going to finish him, because Strickland is not much of a finisher. So those are my predictions for UFC 328. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I'll go through the Risen card here for a second. Main event: Ilham Natsimov, the guy who knocked out Roberto Satoshi de Souza, against Luis Gustavo. I actually think Gustavo could win this fight. I don't think Nazimov is that good of a fighter. I think he kind of fluked it in his last fight. It was a fucking sick knockout, but it's kind of a fluke. So I can see Gustavo winning this. I'll pick Nazimov. I think he's probably the better fighter. I just don't think Nazimov's that good. De Souza is definitely the better fighter. I'll pick Ren Hiramoto in the co-main event. I'll pick probably Kaiwen Lee. I don't know. That's not the best. It'll probably be an entertaining card, but not the most names on that Risen card. I'll pick Joe Hiramoto as well. He'll probably win that fight. Anything else this weekend? Wardley versus Dubois. I think Dubois is shit, so I'll just pick Wardley, even though I think he's the favorite. Okay. Maybe there's some... You know what? Honestly, I'll just pick Dubois because he's the underdog. I don't know why he's the underdog. He's the one who beat Joshua. Whatever. I think Morel will win, believe it or not, as the minus 1,400 favorite. That's also still a pretty shit card. Whatever. Yeah, those are my predictions for UFC 328 and Risen 53 and Wardley versus Dubois. Let me know if you agree or disagree. If you want to hear more about a certain prediction, let me know in the comments. Like the video, share the video, subscribe if you want to hear more. I also have a playlist with all my predictions going back to the beginning of last year. I've got recaps for many cards, especially the recent ones. So you can check those out on my channel. I'll be live tweeting the event and all the combat sports from this weekend on my Twitter, which the link is in the description. That is all. Thank you for listening.